Machine embroidery could possibly be your passion, or maybe it's something you'd like to try. If you're a newbie or wannabe embroiderer, my guest today, Eileen Roche, is back again, and the two of us will show you how to learn machine embroidery in 6 easy lessons. Eileen, nice to have you back. You're our resident embroidery expert. Good to have you here.
Nice to be here, Nancy. 11 years ago, we taught machine embroidery, and today I have learned that the process comes down to 6 key learning points. We're going to begin with the embroidery basics and what to look for in a machine and supplies in order to begin your embroidery journey.
Machine embroidery in 6 easy lessons. That's what's coming up next on Sewing with Nancy.
Sewing with Nancy, celebrating 30 years of sewing and quilting with Nancy Zieman, is made possible by Baby Lock, a complete line of sewing, quilting, and embroidery machines and sergers. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Madeira, specializing in embroidery, quilting, and special effects threads because creativity is never black and white. Koala Studios, fine sewing furniture custom built in America. Clover, makers of sewing, knitting, quilting, and embroidery products for over 25 years. Experience the Clover difference. Amazing Designs and Class A Needles.
Lesson 1 is getting to know embroidery machines and the basics that you need to have. And if you're a newbie or wannabe, Eileen, you start with the machine, and there are certain features that will make your embroidery more universal, and you'll be able to do more things.
Definitely it's wise to look for a machine that features a 5x7 sewing field. It will come with a hoop that has that same size. And then key editing features that are quite helpful right at the machine are rotate, where we can spin by 1 degree, 10, or 90 degrees. And as you can see, as I spin, it's actually rotating right on the screen. And then we'll hit close. Maybe we'd like to mirror image it. And when I do that, you see it's flopped. And I stitched out one design and mirror imaged it so you could see just how important this would be. It's great when creating a monogram and brackets and so forth.
Sure. At lapel, if you want to embroider one side or the other, you can do the mirror imaging.
Right. There's 2 more features that I find are key to success. And one is the trace feature. That enables you to position the needle in 9 different points of the design. You can also travel around the entire perimeter of the design, but it's these stop points that are so helpful when connecting designs.
You may wonder how we're going to use those features. Well, that's why we have 6 lessons. We'll show you how they work.
One of the other last features to look for is the base feature, and that's a key that adds a running stitch outline before the embroidery design. And I call it, it's like driving with auto insurance. You can drive without it, but you're better off with it.
So you'll see how that works. So if you're buying a machine, those are the features that mid-range machines have available. So you don't have to buy the top of the line, or that this is.
They're very common on many machines.
So you have your machine and then some features or some supplies that you need. You want to put the designs on a blank, and rather than having to sew it initially, most embroiderers like to start with towels, napkins, shirts, and we call them blanks.
And they come in all sizes and shapes, and you know, investigate sources in your area, but start on fabrics or blanks that you don't absolutely love so that you can test first.
You might have an old towel that you can test out your monogramming or embroidering and then go on to the new towel. But in order to embroider, you'll need stabilizers. Stabilizers are the hidden support on any fabrics, and I have a whole basket here of stabilizers, and they're not very pretty in color.
No, they aren't, but they're imperative to a successful embroidery design.
Because you have all those stitches, and you need to give the fabric some support. This is a cutaway, I think, that speaks for itself. It's a mesh that stays behind the embroidery after it's completed. And then on lighter weight fabrics, you may consider a tearaway. I think the name speaks for itself. When you're finished embroidering, you just rip it away. The third category are the wash-away stabilizers. Now, when they first came out, they were all clear like this. And they're great for nap fabrics.
They are. They're wonderful for translucent fabrics because they disappear.
And then there are washaways that are opaque. So again, it's got a cornstarch base, so it just dissolves in water. Then the fourth category, and you'll see us use these, you don't need all of these at once, but are the adhesives that they have a paper backing and then a sticky part where the fabric will stick to it within the hoop. Now, Eileen, you have pretty designs.
And they come in different formats also. Many are built into the machine. They're available to download from the internet. You can purchase collections on memory cards, on CDs. But if you do this, then you have to transfer the design from the CD to a USB stick, which then goes in the side of the machine, so you can retrieve your design.
And when you buy your machine, you'll get some lessons. But the designs come, there are hundreds of thousands of designs. Use pretty thread. Rayon thread is what we're going to be using today. Polyester thread is great. Embroidery thread, if it's going to be laundered frequently. And then you'll need a bobbin thread. They're lightweight bobbin thread. Wind lots of bobbins in either black or white. And make sure that when you're embroidering, the same old adage as if you're sewing or quilting or embroidering, you're going to put in a new needle.
And you're going to get a needle that's appropriate for the fabric, a stretch needle for knits and sharp for wovens.
So lesson 1 is getting to know the basics, what you need for tools, and that's our lesson. The star of your embroidery is obviously the design. Knowing the types and the categories of designs, there are many, can help you make wise embroidery choices. Lesson 2 of our machine embroidery class is simply types of designs. Although we're sitting at our machines, we're really not going to stitch or embroider until lesson 5. But it's important that you see the design and how it breaks down. And Eileen, you're going to show that to us on the simple daffodil design.
The beauty of an embroidery machine is that it stops and lets you change colors. So it's color separated for you already. Our first color in this daffodil design is the leaves, that's the background. And then it advances to color 2, which is the background or fill stitches of the daffodil itself.
And you see that in the upper right corner, the change.
And then as I advance to color 3, now I have some highlights and also some running stitch outlines that will add final accents. Then the dark shading is what really lets those pretty stitches pop. So that's how you look at it when it's stitched as single colors. But let's look at the progress as you actually stitch along. Color 1, now we have color 1 and 2, and then color 1, 2, 3, and finally the whole beautiful design showcases all 4 colors. And it truly looks like a daffodil now.
And understanding how the design is built is always fascinating to me, and that's why we'd like to show that to you. We mentioned that towels and napkins are great places to start your embroidery projects, and that begins with the design options.
There are different types of embroidery designs. Lettering, most certainly, is extremely popular. We see this in name tags, monogramming, text messages, quilt labels, you name it.
And look at all the different options, but not all lettering, not all designs are for all fabrics.
And we have stitched out a stock design in 3 different fabrics. First, I can show you that on cotton quilting fabric that's been interfaced with a cutaway, it looks beautiful. The fill stitches are perfect. Those decorative elements in the center pop right off that fabric. But then, when we go to a knit fabric, a very lightweight knit fabric, you'll notice around the fill stitches we have some puckering and some bulging of the fabric. I don't like this. I don't think it's an appropriate treatment for this fabric. Finally, when we look at this design on terry cloth, see, this is eye-opening to me. We have stitched part of it with the water-soluble film-type stabilizer on top, and part of the design has no stabilizer. You can see with the stabilizer, the stitches are lifted off the nap. They actually pop. It looks beautiful. Up here, without the stabilizer, we have the loops of the terry cloth working through the fill. But believe it or not, after this towel is laundered, the entire design is going to look like that. So this is not a good selection for terry cloth fabric.
And since most beginner embroiderers gravitate to towels, that's how I learned to embroider. I made gifts of towels with initials on them and monograms. the design that you choose has to have a certain thing called a double underlay. And underlay is a topic you may think, what is that?
It's not pretty,
No.
but it's very functional.
So this is the start of a letter G, you'll see in a few minutes, and this has one single underlay, and that is the wide zigzag stitches,
And that's common to most embroidery designs. That's what they start out with.
giving it a base, a foundation. But for terry and nap fabrics, you need a double underlay. And you don't necessarily know that.
Until you stitch it out. That's why we
Yes.
really encourage everyone to make a test sample of the design before they stitch it on the good project.
And what this was stitched on, this peach color fabric, is what you see on this guest towel. We're going to use this sample later on in the series, so we don't have the stabilizer removed. But that G has a double layer or a double underlay underneath so that the stitches will stay pretty and on top of the fabric.
Even after laundering, which is important, because that's what you do to towels, you wash them.
Yeah, exactly. So getting to know your designs is all part of this lesson. And
So that's the elements of a design, and then we have different types of designs.
quilting design, an outline running stitch, which you may want to do or would like to do by hand. I wish I could do it by hand, but I can't. But what a beautiful way of quilting layers of fabric together. This is a fast embroidery. And you'll see as you test things out that there are other, you can embroider lace.
And lace is done on a removable stabilizer so that it completely disappears. Here we have it stitched on this kind of mesh type of water soluble. And now you see that the stabilizer has been washed away and you have the translucent see-through lace.
And I just put it in a coffee cup of water and presto, it's gone.
And then we have applique. There's two types. This type is raw edge applique, and the trimming occurs after it comes out of the hoop. So that's your finished hero, which is quite beautiful. And traditional applique consists of 3 steps, and that is a running stitch outline. That's called the placement guide, and that shows you how large you have to have your applique fabric to cover it. And once you know that, place the fabric on top, stitch the next color, which is the tack down, and then trim that tack down away, reattach the hoop to the machine, and do the final satin stitching, which is the pretty outline.
We realize we're not embroidering yet, but it's important to understand all the options that you have. And a great place to start is monogramming, and we're going to show you how to work on towels as well as napkins. But now you know the types of designs, how they're sequenced together, and now we'll show you how to get the fabric in the hoop in preparation for the stitching. Machine embroidery is easy. It's the placement that can be tricky. For that reason, Eileen has chosen embroidery placement as the 3rd lesson in this series. Without perfect placement, even the most beautiful embroidery doesn't make the grade. Placement and hooping and then stitching all go hand in hand. So to get the design that you can easily stitch out in the right spot, we have the first option is a stitch template.
You just hoop a translucent fabric. In this case, I used a stabilizer, and I've stitched the design dead center in the hoop without changing any position on the design.
And we're going to wreck the design.
Yeah, we are. We're going to trace, I've already traced the interior of the design, and I'm just going to draw right over that. It's kind of painful for me to do that being an embroiderer. And then connect the horizontal lines. Now I know the center of my design, actual size, which is imperative when I am placing it on a garment.
Now we're showing you this first because this is the way all of us who learned machine embroidery from the get-go when the machines were available, this is how we had to do it.
Right, and you trim this down, but keep that perimeter of the hoop so you know exactly the size. And then when it's time to place it on the garment, the best friend is your mirror, really.
Yes. In a t-shirt such as this, you'd put it on your body and then you would pin this or tape it to
the shirt itself. And then you're going to use that when you hoop. You want to center the template within the hoop, and then you'll position your needle. We'll do this later, but that's the whole reason why we're showing the templates.
Now, if we had trimmed this would be a lot easier. So before we hoop it, we'll trim this to the exact size, then tape it down, and then you'll see in our next lesson how we use that in the hoop. So a stitch template, preparation's all about preparation. Now, many of you will be able to print out your embroideries.
And any embroidery software program that you have will allow you to print the screen and its actual size. It most likely will have some notches, some printed images on the horizontal and vertical centers. Then take a Sharpie marker and draw the lines to connect that.
But if you have stock designs that are in your machine, I usually do this stitched embroidery like number one we did, but here's an apron. Now we can position it there.
The paper templates are easy to work with. They tape very easily. They also pin very easily, and they
Sure.
last a long time. So if you do go to the trouble of printing them out, keep them in a folder. Maybe write the stitch name on it, the design name, so you know exactly what design it is.
You're not going to sew through this, but it's for positioning. It's for placement. So those are kind of the basics, but then there are tools that can help you as well. And one of the most common things, other than towels and napkins to embroider, are shirts. Polo shirts, golf shirts.
Left chest embroidery is the most common place to land an embroidery design, and you'll see that in casual wear, sporting goods, uniforms, that type of thing. You most certainly want that to be in a pleasing position. It needs to look great on figure. So it needs to be a little high off the chest. You can measure. There's a 2-finger rule where you place your 2 fingers at the neckline and then down about 7-8 inches is common. But there's some really helpful tools that let you do it quickly.
So I have it folded in half, center, front, and then there's a little notch.
Yeah, you center that right over the buttonhole. You want to make sure that your straight edge is aligned with the fold.
There we go.
And then there's 2 openings, and they have different sizes. This polo shirt is a small, so we'll put a Target sticker, we'll talk about them in a moment, right in that notch, and another one down the bottom. That's giving me an alignment guide.
Now, we have a lot of applications on the embroidery, but you can get a office, school, and supply sticker that you put a little mark on it.
And you're just drawing a crosshair,
Yeah.
Nancy, and you put an arrowhead on one leg of the crosshair, and that always designates the top of the embroidery design. Without it, you don't know which way is up.
Or you can get the pre-printed ones that already have the stickers. And I got to lean over. I may not get it just lined up exactly here, but I think it can work. Or your machine may come with stickers.
And these are positioning markers that the machine actually reads and will rotate the design for you if you haven't rotated hooped square. But when you're hooping, you're going to focus on this one. You will also keep an eye on the lower target sticker to make sure you're square in the hoop.
So options of getting things straight. Then napkins and towels.
We said earlier, the number one reason
Yes.
why people embroider is to do napkins and towels, and it looks so simple until you want a whole set to match.
And there are 2 ways to do this. You can kind of use an angle to find the center.
So I have a ruler here, a Target ruler that has 4 legs, and I would position maybe the 2.5 mark on the top stitch hemline. Then I want to make sure that the arms are hitting that line, that top stitch line, at the same increment on each side. Place a Target sticker in there. Again, arrowhead towards the body of the napkin. Now I know exactly where to land my embroidery design.
So we've gone from the very simple of stitching and making your own to here we have numerous napkins made with the same design, and there are templates made for just like they use in industry.
That's right, and that's exactly how they were developed. This beautiful, generous 1.5 inch hem would allow me to place an embroidery design closer into the body of the napkin. So I just aligned that square on the hem stitched line and drop a Target sticker in the opening. Now I could do that whole set in about 10 minutes, to get them aligned.
Now that you know how to mark napkins, towels are very comparable, and there are templates that they use in industry that we have as stitchers and embroiderers.
You've already marked the vertical center with a pin, and I'm going to place the template with the horizontal line right at the top of the border. And then when you put a Target sticker in there with the arrowhead pointing into the body, your monogram will stitch out as planned.
Exactly in the right spot. So we've done 3 lessons of machine embroidery, the basics, working with designs, and then placement. Next comes hooping. Placement and hooping go hand in hand. Do any of you have the task of reorganizing your sewing space on your to-do list? Today's Nancy's Corner guest is a professional organizer, helping creative people like you and me spring clean all year round. Please welcome Gretchen Udak, a previous pattern designer, quilt designer, but now a spring cleaner.
Well, we use the term spring cleaning a little differently when we're organizing our spaces.
And Gretchen has a great acronym for spring cleaning, which will help us in organizing.
Right, you need to know the steps that you need to go through in order to spring clean. So we start with S, and that means sort through all of your items.
Mm-hmm. We'll show examples of how to do that, and then because you sort through, you're going to
pare down. Mm-hmm. You have to give up some things most of the time. You might have enough room to keep everything, but you still need to go through, and there may be some things you can get rid of.
And then for R,
that's where you're going to reuse, repurpose, recycle. Try to reuse them somewhere else, not just throw everything in the dumpster.
And I
is identify locations where you're going to put the items.
And containers and all things like that. And then next for N?
That's where you find the containers so they fit the locations where you're going to store your items.
And then the G is kind of important.
G is very important. Gotta put things away.
So the acronym SPRING, you're going to spring clean. And we have some pictures of a client that you worked with, and this is a great before.
Yes, it's a classic before picture. Things are scattered all over the place. She had a lot of different hobbies, and they were all incorporated into one space. So she had her knitting, her embroidery, her sewing, her quilting, all in one area. So first of all, we had to do all the spring cleaning areas. But to begin with, when you're sorting, it's good to have boxes sitting out so that you can decide where you're going to put the different items that once you sort through them.
So when you're sorting in your stuff into boxes, you ask yourself some questions.
Correct. You have to ask yourself, do I use it?
Or when have I last used it?
That's a good point. Do I need it? Do I want it? And if you don't use it and you don't need it, then you can share it with somebody else.
And that's why the boxes are marked. You can repair it, you can donate it, keep it.
Right, you can come up with your own categories. You may have a charity that you want to donate things to. And there's a lot of different charities that do accept fabric donations. You had fun buying it. Don't feel that, oh, I can't get rid of it because I bought it once. It was fun when you bought it. You enjoyed the fabric, but maybe you've gone beyond that, or maybe you have a different focus.
I think sometimes buying fabric is inexpensive therapy.
It is, it is.
It's a lot cheaper than spending an hour going to sit in someone's office, right?
That is very true.
Yeah.
And styles change, tastes change,
That's right.
You change. And new products come out that make things easier to do, our sewing. So you may need those type of things.
Well, the most impressive part is watching the after, or seeing the after. And this is the same room, and you didn't put the after stuff in another closet or a garage.
No, we didn't. After, when you see befores and afters, it's so much fun to look at and go, that can be my space, and everything has a space. That makes it easier when you're going to put things away, which you have to do. You know where it's going to go.
Sure.
Most of the time, we don't have a place for it, and that's why our rooms get to be like the before picture.
And you did say that you were able to reuse a lot of the organizers, but you just got rid of stuff.
Right. So the client actually went through and did a lot of homework in between our sessions and went through everything and got rid of everything. A lot of things, not everything.
Sure.
But then we had cabinetry that was full of something else that we repurposed and put other items in there. That just made more sense for her usage.
Well, Gretchen, you've given us a lot of ideas of spring cleaning, using that acronym, and sort out and put away and recycle and reuse. I think I'm going to apply that to my sewing room at home. Thank you for being our guest.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining us on Sewing with Nancy. If you'd like more information on how Gretchen sorts and organizes and does spring cleaning, you can go to nancyzieman.com, where you'll find all things Sewing with Nancy. Click on Nancy's Corner and you'll go right to her link. If you'd like to rewatch this program, you want to pick up a few tips or older programs or upcoming programs, again at nancyzieman.com, you can watch 52 of the most current Sewing with Nancy programs right online in the convenience of your home. You can also sign up for Facebook and Twitter and be social on my blog as well. Next time, we'll be back again with Eileen Roche for our second program of Machine Embroidery, 6 Easy Lessons, right here on Sewing with Nancy. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.
Eileen Roche's book, Machine Embroidery in 6 Easy Lessons, includes all the information from this 2-part series and 4 essential embroidery tools. The full-colored book with tools is $29.99 plus shipping and handling. To order the book, call 800-336-8373 or visit our website at sewingwithnancy.com/2620. Order item number MEB0010, Machine Embroidery in 6 Easy Lessons, credit card orders only. To pay by check or money order, call the number on the screen for details. Visit Nancy's website at nancyzieman.com to see additional episodes, Nancy's blog, and more. Sewing with Nancy, celebrating 30 years of sewing and quilting with Nancy Zieman, has been brought to you by Baby Lock, Madeira Threads, Koala Studios, Clover, Amazing Designs and Class A Needles. Closed captioning funding provided by Oliso. Sewing with Nancy is a co-production of Nancy Zieman Productions and Wisconsin Public Television.